So officially welcome everybody to the Lehigh Valley JAJAJA Pecha Kucha series. We are so thrilled to have our wonderful guest speaker from the Consulate General of Japan. And so we've seen Murakami-san, Kenju Murakami-san before in December 2019 when we had our first debut event at Lehigh University. It was called Building Home Away from Home. And it was a summit that really welcomed the community and just getting to know each other. We just did a round of introductions around the virtual room. So it's nice to see some familiar faces. And today our wonderful speaker, Director Kenju Murakami-san is here. And so if you allow me to give a quick short bio, we'll get our presentation started.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to see you and some of you familiar faces for me. So today I'm going to talk about the three things. First, the somewhat political diplomatic Japan Prime Minister's visit to Washington, followed by the Japan's COVID situation and the Olympics, and then the English language education in Japan. So mainly three parts. So can I move on to the next slide? Yes.
Yes. Are you ready for me to
Yes,
do a
please.
little quick introduction? Okay,
Yes.
so just a little bit more about our wonderful speaker today. So Deputy Consul General Kenju Murakami-san graduated from the University of Tokyo of Law and received his LL.M and MA from the University of Michigan. He was posted at the Japan mission to the UN in Egypt from 2007 to 2013 and served as Director of Disarmament and Director of Peacekeeping in Tokyo from 2015 to 2019. And currently he is the Director of Japan Information Center at the Consulate General of Japan in New York since August 2019. So he has a ton of information, and today's talk is just a snippet of all the information he's able to share with us. And he's more than willing to be a resource to our community, so don't feel shy to ask questions after our wonderful presentation. So take it away, Murakami-san.
Yeah, thank you, Miki, for organizing such a wonderful occasion. And I fondly remember my visit to Bethlehem, the first meeting of JAJAJA. I had a really nice conversation, nice dinner, and a nice visit to Olympus campus. It was one of my highlights of my stay here in New York. And of course, it was before the pandemic. So it's already 1 year and a half ago, but it seems to me that it was only yesterday that I visited Lehigh Valley. Well, today, like I said, I'm talking about three issues. Allow me, since I'm a diplomat, first I'm going to talk about the political development, but I will basically skip, do it in just 2 minutes. Japan's Prime Minister was the first foreign leader greeted by President Biden, and that took place April 15th to 17th. And here are some photos. First, the Prime Minister visited Arlington National Cemetery and then met Vice President Kamala Harris. And this is the joint press conference between the two leaders. And as a result of the summit meeting, three outcome documents came out. First is the so-called leader statement. And the second one is the competitiveness and resilience partnership. It's more like the economic relations. And third is a climate change cooperation. And that's the keywords excerpts from the joint leader statement. It's basically about the how to realize the free and open Indo-Pacific based on the alliance relations between Japan and the U.S. Underpinned by the common values of freedom, human rights, and rule of law. And joint resolve to fight against the COVID and the importance of people-to-people ties, and Biden supported the Olympic and Paralympic Games. So, what is the latest of the COVID and the Olympics? That is the next topic. Well, this is the daily caseload of Japan up until the end of April. Unfortunately, in May, Japan is still struggling with the so-called the fourth wave. And if you compare the latest caseload, the U.S. the latest 23,000 cases, and death is 500. Japan is 4,000 cases, and death is 90. So per capita basis, right now, U.S. is still twice of that of Japan, but but on the U.S. cases and this still have significantly reduced, while Japan is still struggling. So the discrepancy has rapidly decreased between the two countries. Um, but still, if you see the cumulative death toll per population, as you can see, this is a comparison of the 10 largest economies, Brazil and Britain. The per capita is you know, um, 20 times that of Japan, compared with Japan to the US, it's 80 to 170. So it's like 60 or 1 to 60. So there is a huge discrepancy, and Japan's death toll per capita is far smaller than that of the U.S. or the Brazil or Britain. And this is a very interesting statistics, the so-called excess death, the number of deaths compared with ordinary years. In many countries like U.S. and Mexico, many people, unfortunately, more people, unfortunately, died than, compared with ordinary years. Whereas in some Asian countries, including Japan, the number of deaths were less, smaller than the ordinary years. This is really mysterious, but it is generally said that Japanese people are very cautious. So when there were fewer cases of infectious diseases like influenza, and since Japanese people mostly stayed home, there were few traffic deaths. So as a result, in Japan, it was recorded fewer deaths than ordinary years. And this is so-called the stringency index, index about the lockdown measures, how stringent it is. And as you can see, compared with the European countries, and oh, somehow it doesn't carry China, but compared with China, Japan's stringency of the lockdown measures was much lower. That means Japan has imposed only limited lockdown restrictive measures. So, generally speaking, Japan has been quite successful in containing COVID when it comes to the caseload or the death per capita. But the very latest, Japan is struggling because the vaccine rollout has been very slow and low. Maybe you have read about it. Right now, in the case of U.S., uh, among the entire population, 50% of the Americans have at least finished one dose of vaccines, and fully vaccinated population is 40%. Whereas in Japan, so far, only 6%, 6 out of 100, have finished the one dose, and for the finish of the two doses, only 2.44%. That is one of the lowest around among the developed countries. Why? There are still lots of studies, but my take is that Japanese people are perfectionists, both the government officers and the general public. As a result, the government, both the government and people, are very cautious about moving forward in new things when it comes to especially health. So very gradually, it has rolled out. They tend to think about every contingencies. They think to talk about every risk. So they moved slowly and slowly. But once it's picked up, I'm sure that the speed will accelerate. And the massive vaccination sites have been established both in Tokyo and Osaka. So I think that by the end of July, the majority of the population above 50 years of age will have finished. And as you know, the elderly persons are most risky in COVID, and Japan is the most aged society in the world. So if the people above 65 years old are finished, that means that 30% of the population will be covered. Hopefully, by the end of July, that is when the Olympics start. So the Olympics, still we call it Tokyo 2020, but as you know, it was postponed by the COVID. The new date is July 23rd for the Olympics and August 24th for the Paralympics. And total venues 43 and 33 sports for the Olympics and 23 Paralympic sports for the Paralympics. And for the Olympics alone, 11,000 athletes are set to expected to gather in Japan. And this is the map of the venues. This is the map of Tokyo, mostly of what we call the Bay Area, but some inner area of Tokyo and also Kanto region surrounding Tokyo. And also there are some venues as well in Hokkaido and Tohoku, because one of the purposes of the Olympics is to support the recovery from the Great Earthquake, which hit the eastern part of Japan 10 years ago, 2011. And here is the medals. This is very unique because it is the first sustainable medal. What does it mean? The gold, silver, and bronze are all extracted from the used cell phones. You know, our office uses a very old cell phones like this, and this kind of cell phone contains rare metals like copper, silver, and metal. And by collecting the donation from the general public, the organizers were able to amass sufficient amount of metals to make the medals for the Olympics and Paralympics. And the torch relay is already going on. And as of today, it's number 30, Shiga Prefecture, next to Kyoto. Shiga is famous for Biwako Lake. And tomorrow you will go on to the Japan Sea Coast prefectures and Fukui and Ishikawa. So it is going on, and the Tochi relay will arrive in Tokyo National Stadium on the 23rd of July. That is the opening day of the Olympics. And this is the playbook, which is about the rules, especially the counter-infection measures. So this is a booklet for the athletes, but there is another one for sports officials, another one for media, and basically the organizers adopt the bubble system in which the incoming athletes and the general public will be separated. So a lot of testing and also minimizing the contact between the incoming athletes and media with the Japanese general public. So for the first 14 days, Basically, incoming athletes and media are not allowed to use public transportation, but they use the transportation provided by the committee, and they are supposed to go to only those places and venues which are registered beforehand. And one anecdote, a beautiful story about the Olympics. There is the story of the competitive swimmer Ike Rikako. Rikako is the first name, and she was the rising star, still is. But in 2018, for example, she attended the Asian Games and she won 6 gold medals and 2 silvers. And of course, there was an Asian game, but she was widely expected to win the medals in the Olympics as well. But in 2019, she was in February. All of a sudden, she felt ill and got the medical checkup and found out that she was suffering from leukemia. And then she fought with leukemia, and of course, she lost weight out of uh, the medication and so on. But she came back to a national stage last summer. The left-hand side is the video she appeared in July 2020 in the video promoting the 1 year to the postponed Olympics. And then the right-hand side, she won the competitive match for the butterfly and freestyle in Tokyo, and now she is qualified for the relay of the competitive swimming for the Tokyo Olympics. So in 2 years, she recovered from leukemia, and she came back to the Olympics. So this is the story which inspired all the Japanese, and we wish the good luck for the athletes like Ike, who have fought against the tremendous odds and on the way to the Olympics. So let me turn into the second topic of today. Olympics would be, well, unfortunately, due to the still lingering COVID around the world, and especially the rampant new variant, which has the stronger power of infection. uh, Japan and the International Olympic Committee have decided not to accommodate foreign spectators from the world. So before that, it was expected that the huge number of guests, spectators, as many as 200,000, would be visiting Japan, and there would be the great opportunity to showcase Japan, and also for the Japanese to interact with the incoming guests. So there was a heightened awareness about the necessity of the Japanese people to communicate in English, and what is the reality, and what are the challenges. This is my second topic. Okay, so many native English speakers from America are now teaching Japanese high school students. And if you walk around Tokyo, you see so many billboards or advertisement of English conversation, English speaking schools, and mostly focusing on conversation. This says Shen E Kaiwa. Shen, I don't know what the name of the person. E Kaiwa means English conversation. Again, 子供から大人まで from kids to adult. E Kaiwa, English conversation. So English conversation school everywhere. It's a big business. It's said that there are as many as 8,000 English conversation schools in Japan. And for higher education, well, I'm talking about this because this is the entrance exam is a big thing for Japanese students, and there is a primary motivation for the Japanese students, especially the high school students, to study English. And if you look at this is the secondary exam. There is yeah, there are two stages of exam, which I'm going to talk about the first stage, but the second stage exam of the prestigious universities, University of Tokyo and Keio University, both of which have high emphasis on English. Both in the humanities field and medical and science field, and in the case of the Keio University, this is the top private university in Japan. English is as much as half of the total of the entrance exam. So that means that English is big in Japanese education system. But it is said that um, only 20% of Japanese adults can make themselves understood in English. And the next is very shocking story. Maybe you have heard about the TOEFL exam. There is the international exam required for foreign students who apply to U.S. universities. And this is the ranking of average scores of TOEFL among Asian countries. It's quite understandable that Singapore, India, Pakistan, because their semi-official language is English. That's quite understandable. But look, North Korea, there are not so many, English-speaking people, but their score is quite remarkable compared with that of Japan. Maybe only the elite students can take the exam. But South Korea, again, English is a big business, and the Korean language it's grammatically very close to Japanese. That means very far away from English, but they do very good. Even Chinese, the totally different character system of Chinese characters kanji, but far better than Japan. And Japan's average is like this, and only Tajikistan and Laos, two small landlocked countries, are lower than Japan. Why? This is the personal observation why English is so difficult for Japanese. First, linguistic disparity. As you know, Japanese linguistic system composed of three characters: hiragana, katakana, each 46, and you have to remember at least 2,000 kanjis to understand the basic Japanese. For example, this says, today it's my great pleasure to talk about the Japan's English education to the people of Lehigh Valley. So the red is Chinese character, and the blue is katakana, and the black is hiragana. So it's a combination of three character system, which is quite different from the European language, of course. And also the grammatical structure. Since in Japanese the verb comes at the very last, and also the negative language negation comes at the very last. So if you compare the one sentence, uh, it's almost like the opposite. So this is a typical thing, but the order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 10 is just like 10, 9, 8, 8, 7, 6, 10. It's totally the other way around because of the totally different language structure. This is a big headache for simultaneous interpreter because she cannot start translation until she finishes listening to the very end, because it isn't until the end of the sentence when you understand whether the sentence is positive or negative. Huge difference between Japanese and English. And third, yeah, this is well, actually, in Japan, it's kind of fortuitous, but in higher education, you don't need English to learn about the top edge economics or science or medicine or even the literature, thanks to kanji and katakana. The Chinese character is used for conceptual things, And the katakana is used for the phonetic introduction of the foreign names. For example, this is the economic textbook, but I'm using the katakana for the foreign names. For example, Lagrange. This is the name of the French economist, and kansu means function, and this is by using the Chinese character. Most of the highly conceptual things can be explained in Japanese language. This is not always the case in many countries like Southeast Asia or African countries. In those countries, you have to turn into English to receive the higher education. But fortunately, in Japan, we can learn almost everything in Japanese, which is good in terms of the Japanese language, but not good for the acquisition of the English language. And the third reason is that you have almost no chance to see native English speakers around you, especially in rural areas. But it's gradually changing. Look, 1985, this was when I was a high school student. I'm from the city of Nagoya, the third largest city in Japan. But still, seldom did I have a chance to see native speakers of English. That was the third largest city in Japan just 30 years ago. But look, for the past 30 years, the number of foreigners in Japan have tripled to nearly 3 million. And if you walk into a convenience stores or restaurants, you are frequently served with the non-Japanese, mainly Chinese, Korean, Chinese, or the Vietnamese, Cambodians, Indonesians, who speak impeccable Japanese and treat the guests even more cordially than Japanese service providers. And it is said that the Japanese government does not welcome the foreign laborers, but there was a big shift about 10 years ago, and in the year 2019, new scheme of accommodating skilled foreign laborers was introduced, called specified skilled worker. And look at this poster with manga or cartoon of happy, well, allegedly foreign workers like care workers, all happily work in Japan. And this is even the video of promoting the foreign workers coming to Japan. Yeah, let's take a look at it.
Japan is seeking foreign workers. A new status of residence to work in Japan is available. Gain further experience while enjoying life. Blossom in Japan. 14 occupations are in demand. Pass occupational skill exams and Japanese language tests. Work up to 5 years in Japan. For details, visit the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website.
In fact, still, oops, uh-oh.
Japan is seeking foreign workers. A new status of residence.
Okay.
Japan.
Sorry. Still, there's a big debate whether Japan should accommodate more workers, foreign workers or not. And the official line of the government is that this scheme is not the labor migration. This is the policy aimed at the skilled workers. But in reality, the type of jobs are quite limited, mostly in food and beverage manufacturing, like the food processing, meat packing, or fish processing, or agriculture, construction. And 60% of specified skilled workers, so far 20,000 workers have been admitted in the past 1 year. 60% are Vietnamese, 10% Chinese, followed by Philippines, Cambodians, and Indonesians. But gradually, it is true that the number of foreign visitors, workers in Japan are increasing. So There is a growing necessity for the Japanese English education system to change and evolve. The first, the traditional and formal English education. English education at school began only in the seventh grade. That is chugakko or the middle school. That was the case of me, and it heavily focused on grammar and less emphasis on communication skills. And very few English teachers are fluent in English. That was true of my school. Although I went to allegedly elite school, but still, among the 20 or 30 English teachers in the school, I think only a couple of them were able to speak English. That was about 30 years ago. But English education now starts at elementary school. English has been made an official subject in the fifth and sixth grade. That is in elementary school. Is that and also in the third and fourth grade, there's an introduction English activity. Is that early? Well, this is the comparison. In China and Korea, English education begins in the third grade. In France, begins at second grade. Germany, the first grade. So maybe beginning English formal education at fifth or sixth grade is not early enough, but I'm not quite sure if it is really a good thing to begin English study at an early age. In fact, teaching English to toddlers or preschoolers is a big business in Japan. But in my case, maybe you noticed my accent. I'm not a native speaker of English. I studied English only after middle school, and I basically followed the Japanese system of English learning. But I now use English a lot as an occupation. So I think the solidifying the language school skill of the native tongue, in the case Japanese, might be more important than beginning the English language education too early. Maybe we can discuss later. But like I said, the quality of the English teachers is a big issue in Japan because they too struggle a lot in speaking English. Here's the importance of JET program. Maybe some of the young listeners today are familiar with this, but JET is the program in which the government sponsors the native speakers of English, mainly in the U.S., U.K., Canada, Australia, to come over to Japan and teach at schools in Japan. Let's take a look at it.
The JET program is at least a one-year experience where Americans have the chance to live and work in Japan, and they're working in the school system, teaching English, or offering opportunities for international exchange.
Yeah, so this is the JET program. Oh, sorry, it was it was cut, but yeah, basically, that was it. And how about the exams? Because I said students in Japan mainly study English because they want to pass the competitive college entrance exam. And this is the first stage national exam, national center test, which is equivalent of SAT in the US. And up until 2020, there were two portions in English, written English and listening English, and the portion was 200 to 50. But there was a big shift this year. Starting this year, it is now called reading English and listening English, and the portion is now 100 to 100. That means 50-50. So more emphasis on listening English. And traditionally, well, up until 2020, multiple choice questions like this. Maybe, well, this is the pronunciation exam, and also what is the stress, allergy, objective, physical, strategy. So choose the word. The stress is not in the first syllable. Although this is kind of a typical multiple choice exam, and also lots of silly grammars due to rain or performance in the game was apart from perfect, different from perfect, far from perfect, free from perfect. Then this kind of a vocabulary exam. But starting this year, lots of focus on practical reading material like this. So first one is the email communication, and the second one is about the fan club flyer, and also lots of practical conversation and even algorithm like this. And actually, in total, you have to read 5,000 words of English, very practical documents within a period of 80 minutes. So you have to read quite fast, and also on a very practical skill. And also on the listening part. Again, for listening, lots of practical situation, and I will demonstrate one question of the listening exam. This is basically about the college lecture, World Happiness Report, and what is the lifestyle in Denmark. So just listen to the excerpt of the.
Questions number 27 to 32. What is happiness? Can we be happy and promote sustainable development? Since 2012, the World Happiness Report has been issued by a United Nations organization to develop new approaches to economic sustainability for the sake of happiness and well-being. The reports show that Scandinavian countries are consistently ranked as the happiest.
Well, I'll stop here, but this is basically aimed at the imitating the college lectures. So the question sheet is also like the summary of the lecture, and also the skill of reading the graphics is also asked. So quite a shift from the grammar-oriented to more practical skills. And finally, as I talked about the number of Japanese students studying abroad, it looks like the more and more Japanese students are now studying abroad, which looks good. But let's look at the second one. This is the number of international students studying in the U.S. This is 94-95 when I studied at the graduate school of University of Michigan. Japan was the highest number, even more than Chinese, Taiwanese, or South Korean students back then. But 25 years on, right now, Chinese students is far outweighs like 350,000 per year. India around 200,000, but Japan has shrunk by one third, and it's only about 17,000. So what is the disparity between this and this? This means that yes, the number of Japanese who go to English-speaking countries for short term, like 1 month or even less than 1 month, has increased. But those Japanese students who pursue a degree in the U.S. has plummeted. Why? Well, there are various reasons, but it is said that the Japanese youngsters are getting more and more introvert and less willing to be adventurous and take risks, and as a result, they tend to choose to stay in Japan rather than venture into foreign countries to study. So my request to you, Maybe I should this first. I myself studied at the University of Michigan as a graduate student at the age of 24, 25, but that was a life-changing and life-defining moment. And I still fondly remember my days at the graduate school. So if you see struggling Japanese students in your campus or around you, please speak to her or him and encourage to enjoy the life in the U.S. And for college students, should you be interested, please apply for the JET program. It will be a very good experience to live and work in the off the beaten path kind of places in Japan and teach English to ordinary Japanese people. So please help young Japanese to study English more. And the final thing is just the 10-year anniversary of the Great Earthquake, and the consulate publicized full-page advertisement in the New York Times of March 11, 10 years after the Great Earthquake, and also publicized the video. You can take a look at it at the YouTube channel of the consulate, as well as the Facebook page. Because we wanted to show gratitude to those American friends who extended a helping hand to Japan after the great calamity. Sorry, I spoke too long. Sorry, Mickey, but I'm very happy to engage in discussion and question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Murakami-san. That was a fantastic presentation, full of information. But as you all can see, all of these things, from the Biden-Suga relationship starting in 2021, and then all the way to COVID, and then Olympics, and even how it relates to English education in Japan. It all is a part of this U.S.-Japan relationship. So this is a pretty exciting time to be a part of this community. And we again thank you, Murakami-san, for speaking with us today and providing such an informative presentation.